Into tonight's season finale. When magic promises changes, things tend to happen. Stay tuned. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Tavis is under attack. I can't get his radio station on my transistor. I'm getting the Asian station that he's right around, but they're not letting KBLA 1580 come in. I'm not getting the black man. So let Tavis know he's under attack. Cyber attack, racist attack, fascist attack, but he's under attack. And they doing something to disrupt his radio station so they won't get the truth out to us.
Hey, it's Tavis. We appreciate all that love, let me tell you, because we may very well be under attack on all sides. Just because you don't believe in conspiracy theories don't mean they ain't after you. But in reality, sometimes stuff happens with the signal from the studio to the tower, which sends our programming to your car, home, office, or your transistor radio. But when you download the KBLA 1580 app, the sound is clear as a bell all day, all night, anywhere in the world, from Los Angeles to Lagos. So we love all of our listeners, no matter how you hear us. But when you download the KBLA 1580 app and hear that richness, you'll wonder why you didn't do it sooner. But don't take my word for it. Download the KBLA 1580 app right now. I'm Tavis Smiley, and I approve this message.
First things first.
First things first, it's the DU General, Money B. I'ma put you up on the schedule, 6 to 9, 8 weekdays, not 2 and 7. Let's go. We got a lot to talk about, so much to pedal through. Unapologetically progressive. Tune to KBLA 1580 to get the mess. We're your ancestors' favorite radio station. First black on talk radio, left side of the nation. Me and Dominique DiPrima go way back. Tag Smiley making sure the station stays black. Discussing all the issues in our community. We're hosted black and brown and others find unity. So let's talk about it. Maybe we can improve it. Digital underground, always down with the movement. So we tune in. The first things first with the queen of Black Talk Radio, Dominique DiPrima. Go sis.
First things first.
KBLA Talk 1580, good morning and God bless. Happy Friday. I'm Dominique DiPrima. This show is called First Things First, and my first thing today and every day is giving praises, thanks, and asking for blessings from God, asking for the blessings of the ancestors and the elders, and let's go. Happy Friday, Friday, Friday. We have a lot to talk about and a lot to do, and you know the way we do the thing on Fridays. Hour one, we look local. Hour two, we look to reparations. We call it Freedman Friday. We do it the second hour of the last day of every week, just to make sure we're up to speed and up to date on momentum, protest, demonstration, progress, theories. All comers welcome. It is meant to be a comprehensive reparations conversation. Hour three today, the phone lines are open. I don't know if y'all saw the Kamala and Oprah extravaganza last night, but you can comment on that or anything else. Certainly that merits some conversation. I'm being joined, I should say, hour two for Freedman Friday, we will hear from Dr. Gamage, who was one of the scholars from Cal State Northridge, who worked on the Los Angeles reparations report, which was released about 3 weeks ago. Dr. Marquita Gamage, and that report is very eye-opening. You think you know a little something about LA? Maybe you do. I learned a lot of things I did not know. And they really put many of the troubles that we have here in LA in context. I'm pleased to be joined this morning by my partner in politics every other Friday. He is, he was a contributor to Fox Soul. He's a regular contributor here at KBLA, and he's the president of the ES Advisors Group, which is a public affairs consultancy with over 20 years experience implementing public policy, advising electoral campaigns, and directing community-based and business growth initiatives. Ed Sanders, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you? It's been a while since we've spoken.
I know. Well, happy Friday. Yeah, that's how I am. How are you?
Doing well. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, we have a lot, a lot to unpack. And I feel like I've neglected the local a little bit for two reasons. Number one, we've had this intense focus on reparations, which we will continue to do because of I'll call it a meltdown, with the California Legislative Black Caucus killing two bills by Senator Steve Bradford at the last minute, bills we felt that we had the votes to pass and now are on inactive status, and a lot of people in the community mad about that. But also just so much stuff on the national landscape has kind of edged in here locally, since they do have some overlap. So I want to look at some of the things that are specific to Los Angeles this morning, Ed, but I don't know if you want to comment on any of those things that have been taking up a lot of the space for the past couple weeks.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's I think on the assembly side, disheartening, and I think when it comes to politics, these are, I think for our community, we find that common sense solutions to particularly issues that let me just take reparations, but issues that, impact our community greatly. When we put something forward that is substantive, that reflects, sort of the history of oppression, the history of race in this country, and then it fails. We expect that, right? Like, we've seen that time and time again, and so it just gets to be disheartening. I think we can hear some of that conversation even in the national scene. I think unfairly towards Vice President Harris. I think I've heard, will she stand up for our community? And she's been nothing but, a champion for our community. It takes a lot to get a bill or a law passed, right? And you may not always see the unseen opposition, but at any rate, when you see something like that out of our legislative caucus, it's disheartening.
Absolutely, it is, and I think they vowed to get it together and whatnot. But I just feel like the community is not going to leave it to them this time. I feel like there's going to be a continued scrutiny and a continued focus on this. It's not going to go away, as some may be hoping. I think this is going to stretch well into not just the beginning of the next legislative session, but probably the governor's race and beyond.
Yeah, I hope so, and I hope it spreads to other states. I mean, I think the relative success of pressing bills like this forward, I hope it gets duplicated, really frankly, across, the 50 states in the union. Yeah,
for sure. Well, there's a couple things that I definitely want to talk about today. One of them is the front page story in the LA Times that Mayor Karen Bass has reportedly narrowed her police chief search down to 3 candidates. And despite the national search, there are 3 local folks, familiar names. and names that people, may be surprised to hear. I mean, it sounds like, we're hearing Arcos, Tingarides, and McDonald was ousted, of course, as sheriff. And, I mean, I love to hear what y'all think. 800-920-1580, 800-920-1580. But it is interesting considering how many people were pushing for an outsider. All three of these are LAPD veterans with varying resumes and strengths and weaknesses. But there is no quote-unquote outsider.
Yeah, it's funny as you raised that. I really hadn't noticed that, but that is true. And I don't know what to make of that. The LAPD is one of the plum or most visible police forces you can lead in the country. So I would be surprised that chiefs with experience from across the country didn't apply.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see. I hadn't thought about that, but I don't know what the.
Well, I feel like that's a perpetual issue. I mean, Ed, if you think about, they brought in Bratton, they brought in Willie Williams back in the day, and he seemed to be completely shut out by this sort of LAPD culture. Bratton, I don't know, Connie Rice calls him a successful chief. He seems to have had more influence. There were people that my experience may be different because he was not the easiest guy to interview, and I didn't see anything that made me feel like the LAPD was moving in the right direction. So I guess we've had mixed results with outsiders in the past. According to the LA Times, LAPD Deputy Chief Robert Arcos and Deputy Chief Amada Tingarides were both at the mayor's house, the Getty House, yesterday for 2 hours each. And then former LA County Sheriff Jim McDonald is supposed to be on the short list, even though he wasn't there that day. And, even though he was an LA County Sheriff who was ousted by Alex Villanueva, he spent many years in the LAPD itself. So he certainly would be considered an insider as well. We'll talk more on that, and we also have many other things to cover. We invite you to add to that agenda, 800-920-1580, or by hopping on YouTube and going to KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dominique DiPrima. He's Ed Sanders, and we are unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward. Tabitha Smiley's new book, The Covenant with Black America, 20 years later, is now on sale everywhere. This classic text shot to #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list almost 2 decades ago. If you have the original book, you will surely want to get this 20th anniversary edition with powerful new contributions from today's leading voices. This 20th anniversary edition presents a compelling blend of historical insights and contemporary urgency in this critical and unprecedented election year. Get your copy of The Covenant with Black America 20 years later today.
To help combat climate change, LADWP is helping neighborhoods have better access to electric vehicles by awarding nearly $130 million in EV rebates to customers just like you. From big savings on used EVs to building new charging plazas, LADWP is charging ahead to help all Angelinos experience the benefits of EVs. Get rebates of up to $4,000 for a used EV and $1,750 for a charger. Learn more at ladwp.com/EV. That's ladwp.com/EV.
Have you noticed the hype around retinol lately? It's all over my social media. But did you know you can get retinol in a body wash? Amazing, right? Olay Retinol Body Wash is packed with moisturizing vitamin B3 complex plus retinol to transform dry skin to visibly renewed in just 14 days. Try it the next time you shower and see the difference for yourself with Olay Retinol Body Wash for visibly renewed skin in just 14 days. And try Olay Retinol 24 Body Lotion.
Are you wet shaving? you'll get razor bumps.
Nah, Pops, I'm good with Gillette Skin Guard. How long you been growing that beard Mama hates anyway?
Since 77, I shaved and got ingrown so bad.
That's why I use the Gillette Skin Guard razor, face scrub, shave gel, and moisturizer, so I don't have to worry about new razor bumps or shaving irritation.
Gillette Skin Guard, huh? Your mama's gonna love this one.
The best a man can get keeps getting better with Gillette Skin Guard. Buy now at a retailer near you.
Sweet chocolate reward. Sweet chocolate reward.
This is not just the sound of someone picking up a sweet treat at Walgreens. This is the sound of someone picking up a sweet treat right after receiving all their vaccines in one trip. This is the sound of treating yourself, because you protected yourself.
Stop by or schedule both your flu and COVID-19 vaccines today and grab yourself a sweet treat while you're at it. Vaccine subject to availability. State, age, and health-related restrictions may apply.
Mom, meet Sarah.
From first-time Nana moments.
And welcome to Flight 101.
To annual girls trip moments. Your can't-miss moments are worth protecting against RSV. If you're 75 or older or 60 plus with a chronic condition like asthma, COPD, heart disease, or severe diabetes, you're at higher risk of landing in the hospital from RSV. And there are no prescription RSV treatments. Check eligibility and schedule your RSV vaccine at vaxassist.com.
So where should we go next?
Sponsored by Pfizer.
Your ancestors' favorite radio station, and your favorite morning show host. Let's get back to Dominique DiPrima right now.
We are back to me. We are back to Ed Sanders, and we are back to L.A. I was at Staples Center. What was I there for? Oh, yeah. I mean, crypto.com. Went there to see Chris Brown. I had not yet gotten a close look at that Kobe statue that they have out there, Kobe and Gianna sitting on a bench. It's quite huge. I don't know, it's I'm glad it's there. I wasn't like, wow, this really looks like Kobe and this really looks like Gianna, but it's nice to see some kind of monument to them there.
Yeah. I mean, listen, the two of them, and that fateful helicopter ride is for sports fans, but particularly Los Angeles sports fans, that is going to be etched in our memories, and I think it's sad every time I think about that story. It makes me sad, but
so sad.
Happy to see that though.
Yeah, I mean, it's them sitting on a bench. It's, okay, we did that. We did that thing. So just a little bit more, at least, on this next police chief situation. Obviously, I don't get a vote. Yep. Nobody in City Hall cares what I think. I would venture to guess. I don't know a lot about Robert Bobby Arcos. He would obviously be the first Latino chief, I believe, or Latine. I think a lot of folks would be lobbying for that, just on the fact that we've never had one. This is going to sound real crazy, but given the number of officer-involved shootings by Latino officers in recent years, in particular on black victims, and I'm not a divider. That's just not what I do. But I think that gives me pause. I don't, maybe Mr. Arcos would be, or I should say Deputy Chief Arcos would be uniquely positioned to get those folks, in line. But maybe people would feel emboldened. I don't know. But that's a problem for LAPD and the Sheriff's Department.
Yeah, I think, a couple things. As we started the conversation, we were talking about the candidates being from Los Angeles. I think one thing to consider is when you bring in a chief, a superintendent, a leader from outside of Los Angeles and drop them into the hotbed that is LA politics, a lot of times they do struggle. I think what you just raised in terms of shootings, you know, the police force has changed dramatically through the years, right? It's no longer, you know, a majority white officer police force. And, you know, I think what you're highlighting is that some of the long-term issues are not always, you know, borne by white officers.
Yeah, I
You're
mean,
seeing
for
a lot
the
of-
forensic accountant is in the chat, Ed, and he says, I got a tangible no stop and frisk. I mean, to me, that is a very low bar, but I do agree.
Yeah, agreed. But to your point, I think you're now managing a force that you know is far more officers of color. I think I want to say it's something like 48, 45% Latino, something like that. I'll have to look that up.
I don't remember either.
Yeah, and so the force has changed over the years. And to your point, I think some of the cultural stuff. I mean, look, we saw this with Tyreek Hill down in Miami when the wide receiver was stopped before his game. You know, the police officers there.
And by stopped, you mean face planted.
Yeah, exactly.
A black man stop.
But we've seen now officers of color adopt the same ideology of, you know, white officers in the past. And, you know, I do think the next chief has to be able to address that.
So, yeah, that's where we started, not to necessarily single out Arcos. I don't know that much about him. And I know the mayor has made it clear that it's got to be the best candidate, not just the person that's the first this or the first that. Dominic Choi, the interim chief, is the first Asian American, and we've had a couple African Americans, but never a black woman. Deputy Chief Amada Tingarides, from the standpoint of community policing, those relationships with community partners like intervention and community-based organizations, would clearly be the front runner here. And obviously, well, maybe it's not obvious to you, but in case those of you who are like, well, I won't vote for someone just because they're black or just because they're a woman, I will. But not if they disqualify themselves by being a Clarence Thomas, you know, or not having the experience. But you give me two equal candidates for any job with one has equal or better qualifications than the other, and one of them is black, I'm going to pick the black one. Sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry at all.
But you know what else we also got to look at is sort of the public environment that the chief is coming into,
right.
Whoever it is, right? I think, you know, polling shows that you know, Californians, particularly LA, Los Angeles, they feel, you know, that crime is on the increase, that it's sort of running rampant. I think that's you're watching it with the Proposition 36, you know,
the repeal of basically,
which
is basically repealing 47, right?
Right, and then and then you've got sort of that movement. You've got that in the DA's race. You know,
yeah, which I mean, Paul Lee is in the chat, and he's right. The polling seems to show Gascon is in trouble. Doesn't mean we can't pull off a miracle, but the fact that this progressive district attorney who comes out of policing is on the ropes against the guy who was a Republican about a year ago is makes the point you were just making.
Well, it what it means for the next police chief is that, you know, they've got to be quote tough on crime, right? And generally for us, what that means is more arrests.
That means, tough on crime is code for lock up more black people. I mean,
right.
And I feel like we fall for this again and again, Ed. I've been on the radio long enough to remember the 3 strikes, long enough to remember, you know, this legislation, which somehow we get on board with time and time again, even though the data shows it does not make us safer. It's really frustrating to me, Ed. I feel like we're like Charlie Brown. We keep trying to run and kick that football, and someone pulls it out from under our foot, and we don't get it.
We are all subject to the same, you know, news and media outlets, right? Like that is the picture that you feel that I think the electorate feels, right? You know, they see the news stories. I think probably the biggest news stories are just sort of the running through the mall, you know, and that sort of stuff with the young people.
Right,
That
the
makes people
so-called
feel
smash and
like
grab.
things are out of control.
Right, and Paul Lee also says in the chat that the consistent news coverage of retail crimes, violent crimes, are getting people freaked out. And they're going to keep doing it because that's spectacular footage. But the data shows crime is down. No one cares.
Right.
I don't know why we don't care, but they don't seem to care.
No, we've seen this time and again. You could just tell people on media, you know, almost anything. You can, you know, we're watching Donald Trump talk about, you know, people eating cats and dogs, and you know, half the country just runs with it as if it's a fact. And you know, this is just a subset of that. When it comes to us, you know, the wider population tends to believe stories like that as though there's some mass criminality in our community.
But that doesn't
we
surprise
always
me.
gonna
But
have to
what
fight through
bothers
that.
me is that we seem to believe it, Ed.
Yeah, but you know, again, I think we get the same dose of news that everyone else does. I don't think that we believe it in the same rates as everyone else.
No, that's true. Well, we got to be more sophisticated. We've got to become more media literate. With AI and the mis and disinformation on socials, if we don't, we're going to vote against our interests every election.
Well, you know, let's throw the kudos out. I mean, that's why Tavis and the team started KBLA. That's why your voice is so important. This is where we do that.
Yeah. Well, of course, the former sheriff, we only have a minute here before news, traffic, and sports, is the third candidate that is reportedly being interviewed by the mayor. He was, as I said, ousted by Alex Villanueva, but now has been out of LAPD for quite some time. So according to the LA Times, folks in the department, maybe rank and file, might say, well, he hasn't been in the mix long enough. The critique they're raising of Tingarides is that she doesn't have enough time as command staff, and they're concerned about the influence of her husband, who's a retired deputy chief. Quick thoughts on that, Ed? Oh, well, I guess we have to do it after news, traffic, and sports. I didn't leave you enough time, but you know, those are the conversations we got to have, and I'm interested to know what our delegation thinks at 800-920-1580. If you know anything about those folks, read the article. Love to hear your thoughts. We'll be talking more about this. It's KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Polls show Vice President Harris and former President Trump deadlocked less than 7 weeks before the presidential election. According to a survey by the New York Times, the Philadelphia Inquirer and Siena College both are tied at 47% among nearly 2,500 likely voters. In Michigan, the United Auto Workers is warning of potential strikes at Ford and Stellantis. The union Wednesday announced a September 25th strike deadline at a Ford plant near Detroit, which helps make the F-150 pickup. A Kentucky sheriff is facing a first-degree murder charge in the shooting death of a judge. Lecter County Sheriff Sean Steins is accused of killing District Judge Kevin Mullins following an argument. Steins turned himself in after the shooting. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Some people just know you could save money on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Those people are probably saving a carload of cash right now. So what are you waiting for? Check Allstate first for a quote today. You're in good hands with Allstate.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Dodger star Shohei Ohtani solidified himself as one of the greatest players in Major League Baseball history. In the Dodgers' 20-4 win at Miami, Ohtani became the first MLB player to reach 50 homers and 50 stolen bases in a season. Ohtani hit 3 homers, stole 2 bases, and had a club record 10 RBIs. Ohtani will also be in the playoffs for the first time in his 7-year career. The Dodgers clinched their 12th straight playoff appearance with Thursday's win. The LA Sparks snapped an 8-game losing streak with a 17-point win at Minnesota last night. The Sparks finished the season 8-32. New Orleans Saints quarterback Derek Carr was fined by the NFL for doing a Michael Jackson move after scoring a touchdown last Sunday against Dallas. Carr grabbed his crotch area, one of Jackson's signature moves, but viewed as offensive by the NFL. Maybe Carr should have done Michael's moonwalk. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Are you coughing a lot, especially at night? Are you often short of breath? Are you using your rescue inhaler often? These could be signs that your asthma is not under control. To keep your asthma in check and help prevent an asthma attack, ask your healthcare provider for an asthma action plan. This is a personalized plan you create with your doctor that shows you what to do and what medicines to help control your asthma and to use when you're having a hard time breathing or when you're having an asthma attack. Please don't wait until you're having an asthma attack. Do something about it now. Schedule a visit with your healthcare provider today to make that action plan and take control of your asthma. For more tips and resources on the management of asthma, visit luma-edu.com. This message is brought to you by Amgen and AstraZeneca.
My friends swim no matter the season, but my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can sometimes take me out of the moment. Now, thanks to Skyrizi and clear skin, count me in. With Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. 3 out of 4 people achieve 90% clear skin at 4 months.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here's what happens when you advertise on KBLA Talk 1580.
3, possibly 4 weeks ago, I heard an advertisement on your radio station from a company called Grid Solar. I would love to have that phone number so I can reach out to them with reference to solar panels being installed on my property.
Our listeners are aware and engaged, but more than that, they are loyal. When they hear empowering messages that uplift their community and help them live better lives, they respond. No medium reaches this coveted black audience like KBLA Talk 1580. So, hit us up today at smb@kbla1580.com and let us help you connect with our loyal listeners. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black. Money to put. Thanks for waking up with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yes, thank you very, very much. Hope you are fully awake. I don't know if I can claim that, but I'm always honored to be on this microphone. 800-920-1580 if you would like to get in on the conversation. So Ed had kind of teed up the conversation about McDonald, the perceived drawbacks of McDonald and or Tingarides, who clearly would be my favorite candidate out of the 3, not only because she's a black woman, but because she's a black woman with strong roots in community policing. But your thoughts on the kind of questions I raised before news, traffic, and sports?
No, I think that's look. I think it's right. I think what the mayor has before her, kind of what we laid out, right? Like, you've got what is obviously her most high-profile appointment as police chief, and the candidates, internal to LAPD all three have some extensive experience there. I think I think one of the other elements that we didn't raise is the ability to really drive the force in its response times, right? I think we've seen response times particularly since the George Floyd incident, drop across the country. And, getting the rank and file back to policing and servicing, responding to calls is going to be a challenge. I think what you referenced before the break.
I mean, but that's trash. But that's trash, Ed. I mean, I know you're right, but it's trash. You're feeling some kind of way because people want you to stop killing us, and people are being critical of police, so you don't do your job. Like, I get criticized every day. If I decide, well, I'm not going to respond, I'm not going to show up to my job, I'm going to get fired. Like, how do you get to have your lip out for 4 years, 5 years, and not do your effing job? You're still getting paid.
When I hear rank and file have issues with the candidate, that I tend to lean towards that candidate, just my own reaction, right?
Yeah.
Because that tells me that that's the candidate that has the rank and file uncomfortable, and I think there has to be some measure of uncomfortableness between rank and file and chief in order to drive it.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that theory, but I think Police Chief Bernard Parks probably had that impact to some degree, and we can do a whole show about whether or not that turned out well for.
No, I think he did. The rank and file, have got to respond. But what you're saying is, and what we're both saying is that through the years, just here in the last 4 years, that's been an issue. I think people call the police and, they're not as quick to respond. And this chief and whoever it is going to have to lower those response times, all while managing the politics of the position.
Yeah. Well, okay. I would like to see more resolving of murders. I would like to see, top of my list is stop killing us, stop killing black people. And that hasn't happened. I mean, for all the pouting and pearl clutching about defunding the police have not been defunded. Their budget is actually bigger than ever. They've all gotten huge raises in LAPD, ginormous raises for which the mayor was criticized after they spent money to try to keep from getting her elected. And yet, the number of people they're killing has not decreased.
Right. We started this conversation with the conversation about reparations and how things don't change. Finding that solution, and I think this mayor, our mayor, will look to shake things up. I think even with the three candidates, all three of them are people that have shown some experience and some willingness to shake up the system. And so we'll see. Yeah. I don't know enough about each one individually to give you the full thumbs up. I remember when McDonald was running against Villanueva, and I was one of the ones that, I'll pat myself. I didn't understand how we moved towards Villanueva over McDonald. I thought McDonald was a better choice.
It's because Villanueva is a liar. And he met with the Democratic Party, and he met with community-based organizations, and he told us things we wanted to hear, which were the opposite of what was true about him, and we stupidly believed him. So I think that's how that happened, and I agree. We should not allow that to happen again. Speaking of stupid things, really bad segue, but Sheriff Luna, who replaced Villanueva, has unveiled his anti-gang policy, which, so basically he's saying, okay, it's not allowed anymore. Like, Well, we know that him admitting it ever happened was a big deal. But that's your policy? Like, you kind of just say, okay, you can't do it anymore? Like, if that was all it took, I think we could have solved this problem a long time ago. It's a version to me of what Villanueva did, unless I'm missing something. Well, I mean, Villanueva denied there were gangs and then claimed he got rid of the gangs that he said didn't exist. And then, but had a similar thing where he said, oh, it's not allowed, but yet we won't check for tattoos. I don't know. This seems like a big nothing burger.
Yeah, it honestly, it is. But I it's funny when I hear the sheriff gangs, I immediately think to the attorney general, both on the state side and on the federal side. And, the presence of a sheriff gang, that's a racketeering charge to me. Just that's what it is on its basis. And, that if you're going to clean that up, you're going to need to see a number of sheriffs walked out of their homes in handcuffs, at 6 a.m. in the morning where they've been arrested. Because just the idea of a gang within the sheriff itself, in the sheriff's department itself, requires them to you've got to act. Because, whatever behavior they've done, whether it's planting evidence, whether it's actually, robbing people or harming people, those are racketeering charges. Those are RICO charges. And if you're going to clean that up, I think it's got to start with the attorney general and prosecutions.
Yeah, well, I mean,
not some statement like, "Hey, don't do it."
Right, I'm going to wave a magic wand. Just say no to deputy gang.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, maybe I'm missing something here. I haven't gone in depth into. I haven't seen the paperwork on this. I'm going off of this article, but it's 2 years since Luna went in office, and you're telling me it took you 2 years to say, and now, starting in 30 days, gangs within the department will no longer be allowed.
Well, they also need to release names, right? Like, these guys hide behind the cloak of the badge and the secrecy. If he does feel that there are gangs, name the names. List the names and.
Right. The policy will ban being in a deputy gang or hate group and require department employees to participate in investigations into the groups, which they won't do. And it doesn't matter what the policy says, to your point, Ed, unless there are teeth and consequences.
Exactly. So at any rate, but this is what you see there is a sheriff trying to thread a needle with, sort of ALADs and, the police union underneath him,
right.
and sort of the politics.
Yeah.
And
which is why he probably shouldn't be the one to do this. It should be coming from the attorney general or something. I don't know. But the fact that the leaders of ALADs, which is the Sheriff's Association, I won't call them a union, are in support of the plan tells you a whole lot to your point about the candidates and who the rank and file is comfortable with. Oh, yeah, we like this anti-gang plan. Just say no.
Yeah, it avoids, it does not break up the old boy network that exists. Definitely no teeth.
I mean, Richard Pippin, who's the president of the Association of Los Angeles Deputy Sheriffs, apparently told the LA Times, perhaps the defund the police crowd won't be satisfied, but they never will be shy of a complete end of any kind of effective policing. Really, so he's trying to inoculate against the criticism. And
right, exactly.
Go ahead, Ed. Yeah.
No, because I mean you're right, and this was an action designed to inoculate against what is the obvious criticism. In the end game, there's no action here. This is just a statement. This is not an announcement of more arrests for office or
a sweeping indictment, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There's none of that. Mm-hmm. And
where's
so
Fonnie Willis when you need her?
Right.
Well,
there's nothing there.
I think also the fact that the Inspector General Max Huntsman said, "I'm pleased that they have passed a policy that seems to minimally comply with the law, but it should have happened a long time ago." That's his response. I would call that tepid.
He gave a public-facing statement, and you could read between the lines.
Right.
He's calling it trash.
Pretty much. He also points out that they kept it secret until right before unveiling it. He said he didn't even get a copy until like an hour before it was unveiled, which he says is not in compliance with California oversight law. That you don't have to read between the lines.
Yeah, again, these are some of the things that frankly should be picked up by the Attorney General. Honestly, it should be written into state statute. In law. That participation in something like this is should be an extreme felony. It really should.
Yeah. We talk about rebuilding trust. Ed Sanders is on with me, and you're welcome in. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
Mark your calendar for October 2nd. It's California Clean Air Day. When you go Metro, you'll enjoy free rides and help clear the air. We can reduce pollution and create a healthier environment together. Let's all ride for a cleaner tomorrow. Start your journey at metro.net.
Looks like Bobby needs a ride again.
Grab the keys. Let's take our auntie to the swap meet. Grab the keys.
Whether you're giving rides or hauling gear, do it all in a Chevy SUV. Head to your local Chevy dealer, where well-qualified buyers get 1.9% APR on all 2024 Silverado 1500, Blazer EV, Equinox, Trailblazer, and Colorado models. Chevrolet, together, let's drive.
1.9% APR for 36 months. Monthly payment is $28.60 for every $1,000 you finance. Example down payment 12.7%. Must finance with GM Financial. Some customers may not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 9/30/24.
Hey, LA residents, it's planting season and the perfect time to get shade trees growing around your home. LADWP and City Plants are giving every resident up to 7 free trees. That's right, 7 free trees delivered right to your door. Trees are great for the environment, help improve air quality, and can help you save on your bill when you use less air conditioning to stay cool indoors. Learn more at ladwp.com/free trees. That's ladwp.com/free trees.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles is a nonprofit law firm that protects and advances the rights of the most underserved, leveling the playing field and ensuring that everyone can have access to the justice system. Every year, LAFLA provides free, high-quality legal services to more than 100,000 people living in poverty across greater Los Angeles. Their unique combination of neighborhood offices, self-help centers at courthouses, and domestic violence clinics puts Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles on the front lines in vulnerable communities and at the forefront of change. LAFLA's expert team of attorneys, paralegals, and support staff works to provide direct representation, offer counsel and advice, provide referrals, and educate the community about their legal rights through workshops and seminars. With locations all over LA, you can access their services or volunteer to help no matter where you live. And if you have an urgent issue, call 213-235-0060. That's 213-235-0060. To get legal help, make a donation, or volunteer, visit LAFLA.org. LAFLA.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Substance use disorder and addiction is so isolating. And so, as a Black woman in recovery, hope must be loud. It grows louder when you ask for help and you're vulnerable. It is the thread that lets you know that no matter what happens, you will be okay.
When we learn the power of hope, recovery is possible. Find out how at startwithhope.com. Brought to you by the National Council for Mental Wellbeing, Shatterproof, and the Ad Council.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where everybody is somebody and nobody is a stranger. You belong here.
And I'm glad you are here. Ed Sanders is with me. The latest news on Diddy Sean Combs. He's in custody in New York, and he's now there. We're now hearing that he's on suicide watch. I guess that's sort of a normal thing that they do if you're really super famous or rich and you go from, running the world to being in jail or prison. I guess they automatically put him on suicide watch, but we haven't talked since his arrest, and I just wonder if you want to weigh in at all.
Yeah, I mean, just, wow. I think we both came up in there. We both are Howard grads, and so we've seen Sean Combs, from the very start of his career, grow into the just call him the entity and the star that he is. An arrest like this is just sort of shocking. It to me, it also highlights, what's wrong in certain industries, that can happen. I think the music industry, I think the movie industry has always had that. You see Harvey Weinstein on trial for basically the same thing in the movie industry, right? And there's a reckoning, I think, that's happening. Now, obviously, I think, I'm out in front because I think Sean Combs deserves his day in court, and, he can vigorously defend the charges and allegations against him and should. But, so I think some of the stories and the leveraging, sort of highlight exactly what's wrong in some of these industries.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about, when you say trafficking, I think Weinstein could fit in that category. Clearly, Jeffrey Epstein fits in that.
Yeah.
But I don't know about and he was charged with sex trafficking, racketeering, and transportation to engage in prostitution. But I think one of the reasons I said this yesterday, that black people are so quick to throw him under the bus, which is happening on social media in a way I didn't see with Cosby, I didn't see with R. Kelly, I didn't even see with Weinstein, is because we saw Diddy on tape beating the crap out of Cassie. Now, he's not charged for that, really, other than the forcible part. But I think that's coloring the response to this arrest and this indictment.
Yeah, but I would also say Diddy he suffers from what I think Deion Sanders suffers from in sort of the college football side. He is that Jack Johnson boxer. His success is there. It's visible, and to, I think, certainly a lot of white America, when you see an African American successful like that, they lash out at it, right? And so I think a lot of his reaction in the media is because of that, like just sort of under the surface, there's that, which is
well, you're not saying Deion Sanders is trafficking, in drug.
No.
You're just saying
like,
because he's so
Sanders,
high profile. Yeah,
when Deion Sanders wins or loses a game, coaching a game, if you watch any of the social media responses on it, people are just, particularly white people are really, really going after him. Oh, he's a bad father, this, that. It's, and it's over the top with Deion.
Right,
I'm sorry, I didn't clarify that. But we know what that is, right? That's always been the case through the years.
No, I mean, I think you're right. It's that, Bill Cosby had that too. And I think it's one of the reasons why people are so quick to defend him, that he becomes a target because of the level of his success and the level of influence that he has. That said, I mean, some things are industry open secrets, right? And
but that doesn't make them okay, right? And I think we're seeing some.
No, I'm saying it's not just a reaction to him being this super powerful rich black man. Some of it is because these rumors and allegations have been swirling around, and really a lot of these folks that are stepping forward now with tapes and stories, you kind of do think, well, why are you just now coming out with this?
Yeah, Listen, I would also say this.
And I'm not talking about
an
victims.
unpopular-
I'm talking about witnesses, to be clear.
Right, but that makes them complicit, and I would honestly say this even about some of the victims. You know, some of the victims, there is a willingness to be the victim, right, in exchange for, you know, career, you know, fame, all that sort of stuff.
But that doesn't make it okay to beat them up, get them addicted to drugs, and if they're minors, which many are, right. They can't consent. There's no such thing as consent by a minor.
I agree with you. I would say there are some instances where, you know, I would step back and say, well, that's sort of two people, you know, on a thing. But you know, the bottom line is in the whole conversation, there's a lot of different stories there, and there's a lot of different behavior that can be questionable. I think, you know, particularly where it has to do with business dealings, right? Like if I'm leveraging sex parties for, you know, your deal or something like that, then I think that's out of bounds. You know, the honest truth is that people are just in there having sex. That's all that is.
Right.
If that's all that is, then whatever. I don't know why we
well,
would be spending the time.
Right. Attorney Nana Jomfi broke that down yesterday. That is not a crime. Being a freak, doing whatever you want to do, it's not a crime if you have consent. But coercing people, you know, beating them up, getting them hooked on drugs, leveraging their survival and or their career, if I said allegedly, you know, that's in a whole different category.
But this is why I think he honestly does deserve his day in court, because some of the way it's worded in the press, and I haven't read the indictment, you know, the coercion into one of those parties, I could call it into question, right? That's what I'm saying. Like, you know, if you're getting put in a headlock and ending up in one of these things, okay, all right, that's coercion. But
what if you're a teenage Usher or a teenage Justin Bieber, for example? How are you?
You're underage.
Right.
Right. Like if you're underage, that's, you know, Aaliyah, R. Kelly, all of that, you know, is despicable, right? And, you know, there's a lot of blame to go around there. You know what I mean? Like you can look at the perp. You can look at, you know, the parents that allow the perp, you know, access to children like that. There's a lot in that kind of a statement.
Yeah. Wow. Time flies when you're on the radio. Ed Sanders, what do you want to leave us with this morning?
Yeah. You know, looking forward to this weekend. I think USC is traveling up to Ann Arbor to play Michigan in a Big Ten game. Looking forward to that, and congrats to Shohei Ohtani on becoming the 50-50 guy for the Dodgers.
I take it you got USC in that matchup.
Yeah, you know, we got to fight for the home team.
Exactly. Well, as always, it's fun talking with you, and there's a whole bunch of stuff I didn't get to, but, you know, that's radio.
That it is. Thanks for having me on. Good talking to you.
Thank you, Ed. You can find Ed on X at Edward M. Sanders. News, traffic, and sports. Then it's time for Freedman Friday. Find out about what has been uncovered and where we're going next with LA reparations. KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Polls show Vice President Harris and former President Trump deadlocked less than 7 weeks before the presidential election. According to a survey by the New York Times, the Philadelphia Inquirer and Siena College both are tied at 47% among nearly 2,500 likely voters. In Michigan, the United Auto Workers is warning of potential strikes at Ford and Stellantis. The union Wednesday announced a September 25th strike deadline at a Ford plant near Detroit, which helps make the F-150 pickup.
Some people just know you could save money on car insurance by checking Allstate first.